Hey guys, welcome to our 10 episode deep dive of the Gulf Shores, Alabama market. I'm your host, Avery Carl, and I wanted to let you know really quick before we get started that we do have some supplemental materials for you to go along with this podcast on our website, theshorttermshop.com. So what we have there is the current purchase prices in this market. So you can set yourself up a search, look at properties, do all that fun real estate stuff, kind of like Zillow. We've got it on our website, and you can check out exactly how much it costs to buy a condo or single family home or townhouse in the Gulf Shores market right now. Also, to go along with that, we have the AirDNA data, thanks to our friends over at AirDNA, for this market for the past few years. So you can compare purchase prices versus the AirDNA data and kind of do some analysis there. We've also got a really cool calculator on the website that I built around short-term rental investing to go along with all these things. Or if you know you want to buy in Gulf Shores and you're ready to start talking to an agent, you can reach out to us at agents@theshorttermshop.com and we'll get you connected with our agent in Gulf Shores. And last but not least, if you just really like us and you want to hang out with us more, we'd love to see more of you. So there's a few ways you can do that. You can join our Facebook group. It's called Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth, same title as my book. It's a community of over 60,000 investors sharing best practices and just kind of being friends with each other. It's pretty cool. Or if you want to talk to us in person, you can do that every Thursday. You can sign up at strquestions.com. We have a 1 hour lunch hour, just office hours, where you can ask us anything you want about short-term rental investing. So we appreciate you guys listening, and please reach out to us with any questions. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Join us in our community on Facebook as well. And I guess we'll get to the episode now. Thanks, guys. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Short Term Show limited series on the Gulf Shores market. Today we're talking about calendars and pricing. Same cast of characters that you are used to. But guys, go ahead and introduce yourselves briefly, starting with Jonathan.
Hey everybody, good morning. This is Jonathan with the Short Term Shop, and happy to be here again with these awesome people and talk about calendars and pricing.
All right.
Good morning. I'm Tim Grillo. I actually live in the Smokies, but own several properties in Gulf Shores. So always love talking about our favorite getaway from home.
Yep. And I'm Ethan McCarty. I also help out the Short-Term Shop and have a duplex down in Gulf Shores.
All right. So let's talk about just generally what we see in terms of occupancy rate in this area before we get to in the weeds on calendars and pricing.
Take it, Tim.
All right. Well, I'm going to say, like any market, that's going to vary on the type of property you own. But generally, it's going to be, I'm going to say, not as much of a year-round occupancy because it's the beach, So people are, obviously your summer months are going to be much more heavily weighted. And the bigger the property, the more true that is. So it's, a lot of people get really freaked out by that, oh my gosh, I want to be in this market because it's year round. I'll say if you're in the right vacation market, in a true vacation market, that's not really true because yes, it will be lower occupancy, but really what that means is you make a metric crap ton more money when it's hot, than you would when it's in the off season. And so you end up making the same, like if you look at like a 4-bedroom off the beach in Gulf Shores, compared to a 4-bedroom in the Smokies. The 4-bedroom in the Smokies is going to be a higher occupancy, but if you look at the gross revenue for the two, it's going to be pretty similar. And especially like the ratio of what you pay for it versus what it makes is going to be pretty darn similar. That's what my experience has been. I personally own some small condos that are on the beach, and my occupancy is higher and it is more year round, but I don't necessarily make more money than I would on a small property in the Smokies, so it's the same kind of, it's just very, generally, any beach market's going to be a lower occupancy. So, you guys kind of agree with that?
Yeah. No, absolutely agree. Really for us, it's from March until maybe October. October's hit or miss, but March is really heavy. April's down a little bit. People are still in school, but then come the summer months, May, June, July, August and September, that it stays steady. If we get a booking in the winter, it's like just a little cherry on top. I'm sure we'll talk about maybe Snowbird sometime today, but as far as actual short-term bookings, they are the holidays and that's it for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, that's not a scary thing for me. It's just you get some time off and you get some time to do some work to your property. Exactly. And if you've had these things for a long time, you understand that. If you're new, you may not, but and there can be anxiety in that, and you have to budget your money right and everything when the money's flowing in hot and heavy in the summer. But having some time to do some things is a nice breather. So.
Yeah, and I'll agree with that too. I think a lot of people get scared off of coastal markets when they hear that occupancy rate. But my 4-bedroom in Destin that has a 65% occupancy rate makes about $40,000 more a year than my 4-bedroom in the Smoky Mountains that has an occupancy rate of more like 85. So you guys really need to look more at the gross annual income than what the occupancy rate is, because it really doesn't matter. I'd rather it be rented one night a year for $1 million than 365 a year for $10 a night. So just make sure you're not losing sight because you're only paying attention to that occupancy rate.
Yeah, and Ethan touched. Oh, go ahead, Jonathan.
Oh, I was going to say on that note that you may see even studios down here, very small properties that may have snowbirds that are in them during the wintertime, and they may have an 80, 90% occupancy rate. But if you compare that to a 4-bedroom, like in the, similar location, the 4-bedroom's likely, I mean, it's going to have much higher overall gross numbers. And like Avery was saying, that's really the only important thing to me is how much you're grossing each year. If it's 50% occupied and it's grossing more, it's still grossing enough. So.
No, I totally agree. Occupancy doesn't pay the bills. Gross revenue pays the bills. And so that's what you need to pay attention to. Occupancy can be whatever it is. As long as your gross revenue is what it needs to be, that's what you're looking at. So, and kind of what Ethan was saying, I mean, he kind of touched on the seasons. I mean, you kind of nailed it. I mean, spring break kind of starts usually around March. So, I mean, March and through, September, October, that can be debated a little bit is kind of your obviously it slows down, no doubt, after August. But that's your hot season is March through, like I said, that's September, October. There is I want to use the H word. There is a hurricane season. And that doesn't need to totally freak you out either. It's something that can happen, but it doesn't mean hurricanes happen every year. And there's like a hurricane season. Ooh, there's a hurricane every year. It's not like that, but there is always that threat. And, so that there tends to be, people that travel to places like that kind of know that, and they kind of, bounce around it a little bit. So,
yeah, I think that I see a lot of posts of people who buy in markets like this, and then come August, they start posting on all the Facebook groups, how do I get occupancy in the wintertime? How do I get occupancy in the wintertime? And the answer to that is most likely you don't. So many people are like, well, what do I do to get people? Well, people aren't coming. It's not that they're there and they're just not booking you. People don't come in the wintertime unless they're a snowbird. And we can go ahead and get into that real quick. But so guys, snowbirds, if you're getting a 3, 4, 5-bedroom property, snowbirds are not coming for you. They're typically just couples. So it's going to be 1-bedrooms, maybe 2-bedrooms that get booked by those guys. But you guys want to tell everybody what a snowbird is and what they do?
Yeah, absolutely. I love snowbirds. So we have the perfect properties for them. And that's, the answer to how do I get bookings in the winter? If you want to have more of a year-round occupancy, buy a small property facing the Gulf. That's the answer. Because what snowbirds are generally, I don't want to be too specific, but it's generally retired folks that generally live somewhere where the weather's horrible in the winter. Up north, a lot of, Michigan, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, you go down to Gulf Shores that time of year, and that's all you see for license plates is those northern states. And their choices are they can either stare at 8 feet of snow in their driveway, or they can go stare at the Gulf of Mexico. And the weather is not like you're going to go swimming in the ocean in the Gulf Shores, but it is an extremely popular place. And I found there's like a whole community of these people, and they talk to each other and they make friends. And a lot of the people that live up there, they have these friends they see every year when they go to Gulf Shores, and they stay for 2 months in the winter. And that's what a snowbird is. They go and stay down there and get away from everything that sucks about where they live. And quite frankly, we can touch on pricing with that. You are not going to rent the snowbirds for anywhere near what you're paying or getting priced for in the summer. They are a bargain group of people generally, and quite frankly, it comes down to, I talk about this a lot, but supply and demand. Demand is very low this time of year, and the supply is very high. So they're shoppers, so your prices are going to be ridiculously low compared to July. but you do get the occupancy. So for us, it's just barely above our mortgage, and but we do it. We love them. We have repeat. You tend to get repeat people. They fall in love with your place, and for no reason, because they're really all the same. But I say that's not true. But they fall in love with your place and they want to keep come back year after year. I mean, our people that we have in our one unit there, they can't wait to write the check as they're walking out the door in February for next year. So that's kind of what that's all about. But like I said, it's not anything. It's not going to be huge dollars, but it is nice, if that's what you want, to have some not year round, but more occupancy.
Your Snowbirds, Tim, were they there when you bought it, or how did you find them?
So we've had a little bit of both. So we've had ones that have come with properties that we have scared away because we raised the price. We have ones that have come with properties that we have kept and they love it, and then we've actually raised the price and they completely understood. And then we've also messed around with having Snowbirds, and we have a couple of units right by each other, and we've messed around with having Snowbirds in one and leaving the other one open on the booking platforms, and just with the price is much lower. And we tend to get Snowbird type people that book it. We'll get 2 and 3 week bookings off of Vrbo and Airbnb. So just because they don't book, traditionally a lot of Snowbirds are off platform bookings and direct and things like that. We get a lot of them that are more direct and not staying the whole 2 months straight thing. But they just book it off the platform.
Gotcha. Just to mention a couple other options. I've never hosted a Snowbird. We've looked, just hasn't worked out. But there is a Facebook group for Fort Morgan where you can post your property in there, and Snowbirds are in there looking for the place. And then I think Furnish Finder is still something that you can use to get people who are looking that area. Just wanted to throw that out there.
And I know people that have done targeted Facebook ads. And when you do that, if you're going to get into that, that's a whole nother world. That's not what this podcast is about. But where people make the mistake is they'll do it in Gulf Shores, and people aren't looking. You need to do it where those people are. So you have to do some research and some legwork, and it's some work. It's a marketing gig. But if you I'm making up towns, but if you want to market, if you want to put an ad up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, that's the kind of place you're going to want to put up Facebook ads. Is you're going to find a northern place that's hot for those type of people that are looking for something like that. So
yeah, Canada.
right, and that we get Canadians for sure in Gulf Shores. So again, I always like to say, when you look at Gulf Shores, if you make a V above, make it the point of the bottom of the V and make it a huge funnel, and that's your market. Basically all the way up to Canada. that funnel that leads down to Gulf Shores is your demographic you're looking for.
Yeah. So let's talk about lead time then. So what is the average lead time for bookings in this market that you guys see?
So just speaking on our property, in the summer, we're about 3 to 4 weeks for us. And that's where we stay all summer long. So June, July, August, about 3 weeks out, we get bookings for the 3 weeks and we stay there. That's where we're at. Tim, or Jonathan, where are you guys at?
In the hot time, I agree. 3 to 4 weeks and sometimes even less. We get a fair amount of bookings in the 1 to 2 week, and sometimes even a couple days before they show up. I will say, if you are being aggressive with trying to fill your calendars, which I think everybody should be, even when it's going to be tough, you got to be working on those harder months well ahead of time. So again, when demand is really high, I agree with that 3 to 4 weeks. But when it's not, we're working on our calendars way ahead of times, and we do get a lot of bookings that are further out. We got our September almost full down there, and I started working on that a couple months ago, and it's July, end of July right now. So I probably started working that around the beginning of June, maybe a little sooner. So
and we're the same, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Tim. That's, if you want September and October book, that's when you need to start doing it. If you wait too long, you miss out on the people that are coming, because there are less people coming and they've already decided where they're going. So great point.
Yeah. So do you see a different lead time in larger versus smaller properties?
Yes. The bigger the property, the further out people tend to plan. It's not, obviously there's going to be exceptions to the rule, but again, ours are small. We got 1 bedrooms, so ours are more last minute and more, people just, they find it and it's easier for them to get into. But bigger properties, if you're at a place in yours where you have multiple groups of adults. So it's not just a husband wife. Like you got a husband wife and grandma grandpa, or maybe some uncles or whatever. That's kind of, they have to do more logistics and planning. So they're going to tend to book a little further out, because those people have to all get together. And usually a lot of people, they'll sit down at Thanksgiving over a bottle of wine and pick out when they're going to Gulf Shores or something like that, so.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more organization involved with booking a big property for a bunch of families, rather than just, hey, let's go to Gulf Shores this weekend for two of us. So totally get that. So let's talk now about your calendars and pricing. So what are we doing? We know when the season's coming, starts in March. What are we doing? Let's say January 1st, we're looking at our calendars for this year for Gulf Shores. What's the first thing you're doing? Just walk me through.
So obviously for me, we know when just from some experience, we know when the peaks are, and we have our prices pretty high up. We're not as concerned about booking those peak seasons in January, but that can wait, because the demand's going to be there in July to fill it up. So our prices are pretty high, and it's about 4 times for us, like 4x. So like what we charge in like a January is going to be about 4 times less than what our July is going to be. So there's pretty big swings in their prices. And again, this is a 1-bedroom condos. But that's, we're down in the sub $100 a night, in the wintertime, and up in the 400s for sure. And sometimes even tickling 500 a night in the middle of July. And so you really have to be on top of, enemy method, but also supply and demand, and knowing when your seasons are. You don't want to be super expensive in the slow time, and you don't want to be super cheap in the high times. So you got to get out there and really pay attention to what other people around you are doing. And I'll say, if you have a well done property and a great listing, it's okay to be more expensive in a busy time. Like you can be the most expensive person out there and get it booked because you have a great place. In the slow time, that's less true. In the slow time, there's tons more to pick from. So it does become more about price. So
on January 1st, or in that time frame, when you got 3 holidays to work with. You got Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day. So make sure you're thinking about those when you're doing it. And then I'll loop Jonathan in here. Activities in Gulf Shores, Fort Worth. I feel like there's a Mardi Gras week. I believe that's true. And other activities, Jonathan, that are off the top of your head that are big for people traveling?
That's right. I wouldn't say the Fort Morgan Parade's too big, but it is really fun. I did go to that, and it's really cool. There's like four things, floats, but that's in February, if I'm not mistaken. And
so that's earlier.
That's right.
Actually, you brought up a great point there, Ethan. There are a ton of festivals and stuff. The Chamber of Commerce does a pretty good job of putting stuff on a calendar. So look at the Chamber of Commerce website and see, calendars and stuff. And then also pay attention to things like the Hangout and Floribama, some of the bigger, I hate to say just bars, but the bigger venues that are down there that do things, because they do huge festivals. And if you pay attention to your price labs, you'll see weird dates and like almost shoulder seasons that have huge prices on them. You might go, oh, that's a mistake, and change it. That's probably a festival or something that Price Labs is catching. So try and pay attention to when there are things going on, because that is huge money makers. So
that's a good point, Tim. And like in October, you got Shrimp Festival that we're all booked up for. That's huge. Fall break. And if you're by the Floribama or the Hangout, you do want to keep up with their calendars, because they're doing stuff year round. So that's a really good point. Yeah,
they actually, I don't know about Floribama, but the other one, Hangout, the one I'm right next to, the Hangout, New Year's, they call it a polar plunge. Everybody runs in the ocean on New Year's. It's not really polar because you're in Gulf Shores, but there's a ton of people that go there for that. We went to it last year. That's how I know about it, and it was a ball. I didn't do it, but my wife did. So
yeah. And to another point Tim made, if we're in January and we're getting July bookings, the first thought we have is we're not priced high enough, because we don't really want. It would have to be a big booking for me to feel good about that. We're wanting to be a little closer, to that time to get booked, to make sure we're appropriately priced.
Yeah, and back to the Mardi Gras thing, people don't realize that Mardi Gras actually started in Mobile, which is right 45 minutes north of Gulf Shores. So Mardi Gras is a really big deal in South Alabama. So I think a lot of people miss that, and they think, oh, it's a beach market. Cool, beach times. But Mardi Gras is in February, and it is a big deal in South Alabama. So definitely something to not forget on your calendar.
Yeah, and if you haven't been to Gulf Shores at all, if there's a lot of that style food there, period, all over, and that's one of the things we love about it. You can get great. I say New Orleans style food, but it's that southern. It's great. So
and even though the Fort Morgan one isn't that big, the Orange Beach and Gulf Shores Mardi Gras are huge. They shut down the streets, and I was in one of those parades. It was nice.
You were in the parade?
Oh yeah, I was just driving in one. It was,
well, that's.
I had all kinds of stuff pictured in my head already.
Oh man, I think you need to get actually in it, like as a character. I want that to be your goal for next year.
I'll do it just for you, Avery.
I'm picturing feathers and all kinds of crazy nonsense.
Hey, well, we'll see. Y'all just got to show up, and I'll throw you some beads.
You've got the look.
All right. Okay. Where were we? Back to calendars. Okay. So let's say, we're pulling up on March and you're not booked for your, why can I not think of spring break? I keep wanting to say Mardi Gras. You're not booked for spring break yet. What are we doing? What are we looking at? What are some things we can do to get booked? And what is our pricing doing? I mean, typically that'll probably mean your pricing's too high, right?
Yeah. Number one, I mean, you really got to check your pricing and a lot of newbies get mixed up in thinking that they just get a number in their head. They heard it somewhere, or they saw it somewhere, like it needs to be $400 a night or something. But do the math and see, take that times, however many days you think you're gonna be occupied versus where you are on your total all in, budget or expenses for the month, your mortgage and all that. And generally you can go lower than what you think. Just off the top of your head. But obviously right after pricing, it's just your listing. You need to make sure that it's top tier. You can make sure that your pictures are great. The way your descriptions are written is good. That you got to be active with it. You need to make sure, on Airbnb, make sure you hit all your insights that you can, and just changing things up and your title and all that stuff. So, and
I'll mention that also minimum night stay. We never do Saturday to Sunday or Sunday to Saturday. We when it gets busy, we're 3-night minimum, and we like to stay there for the busy season. Winter, you can book a night for cheap, but we want people to come when they want to come and book when they want to book. And that, if you're a 7 to 7, maybe you're not getting the booking because not everybody can do that.
Completely agree. And thank you for saying that, because that is like such a classic beach property manager move. It's just like, to me, it's gross. It's just like they're forcing people into 7 days. And this is another math thing. If you look at what it would cost for 7 days, that might price somebody out. You could actually be more money per night and only do a 3-night stay, and you get them, and it may be like more per night than they would have paid for that 7-night, but they couldn't afford the total, but they can afford the total of your 3-night. So like a lot of times I'll pay attention to that too. I found like my building has a ton of property managed properties in it, and they're all that way. And I can crush them on nightly rate because of that. I keep my nightly rate to where I make my 3 nights about 25 to 30% cheaper than their 7 nights. Is the total. That's kind of what I do. It's my little secret, but we won't tell anybody. Anyway, no, that's a great point, Ethan. So
that's good math for Tim.
Yeah, that is really good math for Tim.
That's a very common mistake for new beach owners, because they'll just hear that somewhere or see that somewhere. Oh, you got to do 7-day minimum at the beach. And that's really not the way to optimize.
I hate to say it, but people that say that, it comes off a little stuffy to me. I was just like, oh no, I don't want people checking in on any other day but this day. And I'm losing, I don't know. It just let people come, have a good time, and
yeah, I think it's just old school.
Yeah. And we have our Price Labs program to where, it gradually, like as it gets close, we open up our 3-night to actually 1 night, but then it messes with the prices and stuff in there too. So.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to summer now before we run out of time. So when do we start pricing for summer? When do we start seeing bookings come in for summer?
So pricing for summer, I do way ahead of time, but I just have it high. So again, I leave my calendars open at least 12 months, and we do a far out pricing. So the pricing is going to be in there for summer. And I do at the beach, I do a far out pricing in Price Labs. And then I do an additional, I call it black lining, but I do a manual override for the summer to keep it high until about March. And then in March is when I start bringing into realistic prices, and sometimes they'll start getting grabbed that soon. But a lot of times April and May is actually when a lot of the June and July bookings really start coming in. So
what are the exact same?
All right, Jonathan, exact same.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from Tim today, so we'll be.
All right. So, how far out should we be worried if we're not booked for the summer, and should we start tweaking our pricing there?
So for us, it's going to be that 3 to 4 week mark, right? So as March comes, we want to be booked for March 3 to 4 weeks before. If not, I think we have price labs automatically set up to start reducing prices a little bit at that point, and we're going to stay that way consistently through summer. I'll mention again, April is an outlier, at least for us. It drops compared to March and May, like it's a dip. So we do try to be more aggressive in getting people in April, but the rest of the time we're 3 weeks out. And as we get a little closer to that, our price just drops and drops. But honestly, I've been in the beach market 2 years now, I think, and I've never had it's booked May through August for sure. The very few open nights.
For me, if you don't have any bookings for June and May, I'd be looking at it. Not freaking out yet, but I'd be looking at it. You know, if you're at like 20% for June and May, I think that's fine. And personally, that's my personal opinion. And then by the end of May and you know, they'll start coming in. But yeah, April, May is when I'd really be looking at having some bookings for June. And then, you know, it just keeps going for July. So, and again, it depends a little bit on the size of your property. If you've got 4, 5, 6 bedroom, you may want to back that up a little bit. And, you know, the general 1 to 3 or 4 bedroom is kind of follows that rule.
So for somebody coming in new in this market, what are your top tips or just beginner tips for their calendars and pricing?
I say when you're new, you're going to make mistakes, and don't be scared of that. You know, you need to come in, and I would say I would lean towards getting booked than I would towards optimizing pricing in your first year, because you need to get people in your place getting reviews, and you need to be gaining experience on how to handle the entire business. So don't focus your first year and beat yourself up if you don't do it right, because you won't. You're not going to. I didn't. I'm sure Ethan didn't. I know Jonathan hasn't. Sorry, Jonathan. No, it's anybody that's done this has made mistakes. And I see people all the time get hung up on like completely freaking themselves out, trying to do every single detail perfect. I would much rather, you know, get people in there and learn. And then, you know, as you gain experience, work on optimizing your pricing. So,
and you know, we've talked around it a lot about it, but we haven't really said it. Use price labs, and it's there for you to get a baseline, and then look at what your neighbor. I mean, Tim knew exactly what the property management company in his complex is charging. Know what that is, and know what you need to be better than that. And so, just research and learn from whatever sources you can.
All really great advice. So, anything else we haven't covered in terms of what you need to be thinking about when on your pricing and your calendars in this market?
I think, you know, Ethan just kind of nailed it, but if you own in other markets already, and this is a second market, don't assume it's going to be the same. You know, we own in the Smokies, and it's not gonna say drastically different. Some months are drastically different, you know, and the Smokies, like Christmas and Thanksgiving are like this massive thing. And the people love to go to the Smokies for Christmas. It is not like that. Like I've made the mistake of pricing my Christmas like I do in the Smokies in Gulf Shores, and it's gone empty, you know, because it's not a big deal to go to sit on the beach at Christmas time, evidently. So anyway, that just pay attention, like what Ethan said. You know, spend time, do your research, do your homework. You know, I've heard everybody say do your push-ups. You know, but you need to learn the market and what's going on down there, and pay attention. You know, there are data sources out there you can look at. You know, AirDNA talks about seasonality. A lot of things talk about seasonality. But, you know, also you have to cross-reference that to your specific property, because they're all different. You know, 1-bedroom condo, like I'm talking about, if it's across the street and pointing the opposite direction, is going to be a different game than one that's on, you know, everything has just got its own intricacies. If you're 2 blocks from the Hangout versus Fort Morgan, not one's better than the other, but they're different. They're totally different to manage. So you got to learn your specific little micro cell of where you are. So,
all right. Anything else before we go? All right, guys. Well, if you just want to learn more about short-term rentals, we have a live Q&A every Thursday. You can sign up for that at strquestions.com. You can also join our public Facebook group. It is called Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth, same as my book. I've just pointed in the wrong direction. That's why I'm laughing if you guys are watching on YouTube. So same title as my book, Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. Or if you guys are ready to go ahead and start looking in the Gulf Shores market, you can email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com, or you can get get Jonathan directly at jonathan@theshorttermshop.com. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.